everyone, and welcome to Bakery Live. I'm the editor of International Bakery Magazine, and in this exclusive interview, I'm joined by Gary T, who is the Vice President Global Converting at TEPA. Hello, Gary.
Hi, Joseph. Good to see you.
You too. Thank you for joining us. I'm going to delve straight into the first question. How would you describe the current level of interest in compostable solutions within the baked goods sector?
Okay, so the current level of interest we're experiencing at TEPA is a global interest. So TEPA is a global company who operate US, Europe, and Australia and New Zealand. And so we're certainly starting to see interest in all three territories. And we actually have product already in the market in the baked goods sector in those territories. So currently, we're certainly seeing that.
And when considering compostable packaging for baked goods, what would you say are some of the unique challenges or considerations that the industry faces?
Okay, so the baked goods sector is a very diverse sector. So there's many different products, many different packaging formats. So there's no one solution that fits all. So for us as compostable packaging providers, we need to carefully consider all of the requirements that each product has. And that makes it a challenge. So, and for that reason, we've had to develop a broad range of solutions suited to wicked tip bags, flow wrapping, vertical form fill, and other bag formats, to be honest. So the challenge is certainly there from formats. We then have the challenge of the properties that the products require. So we obviously have to then take into account what's required to provide the shelf life for the product. Invariably, we're then into the water vapor, gas barrier, that type of thing. In addition to that, we have the challenges on the machinery. So obviously, this material has to perform on a packing line. So again, we have to look into what the requirements are on the packaging machinery to make sure we meet that requirement. So it's quite a challenge, but we've developed a broad range of solutions to meet that challenge.
And to delve a little bit more into the technical requirements that compostable packaging must meet in order to be viable for baked goods, could you elaborate perhaps some of the key factors related to barrier properties, flexibility, and also durability?
Yeah, sure. So if you look at what's currently used in the baked goods sector, the typical materials today, which wouldn't be compostable, would be polythene, polypropylene, and complex laminates, so multi-layer structures. So they've all been developed over a number of years, and they're very fine-tuned in what they do. So what we have to do in our sector is really emulate those types of material, taking into account their properties. So the key properties we have to consider is things like water vapor. So bread will go stale very quickly if we don't have the right water vapor barrier, so that's crucial. Also, things like biscuits and baked goods will go soft, so it's a real key component or a key criteria. Other is gas barrier. So gas barrier is important for certain products, certainly when gas flushing is used, more for the longer shelf life type products. So gas properties or gas barrier is a key component. We also have to take into account light barrier. Certain products can be affected adversely by light, so fats can go rancid. So where needed, we have to introduce a light barrier into the structure, so we can do that as well. So that's sort of on the barrier side. And then you've got to take into consideration on-pack performance. So these materials have to be easily heat sealable. They have to be able to, what we've done at TEPA is we've tried to generate, and we have generated materials that will run on conventional packaging machines. So we've had to match that heat seal characteristic that conventional packaging has and that performance online. So when it comes to the sort of the durability and the flexibility, that was always a key consideration. So we tried to make it as easy as possible to make the switch to compostables.
So what kinds of materials then are being used in compostable packaging for the baked good industry? And how would you say that these materials compare in terms of performance and sustainability to traditional plastic packaging, for example?
Okay. So TEPA has a broad range of solutions. I'll touch on some of those, and then there are other products outside of TEPA's range, which I'll mention as well. But going back to sort of the challenges, the polythene, the polypropylene, and the complex laminate. So we've got our version of those. So we refer to our polythene type material as 302, TEPA 302. So that's a patented formulation designed by TEPA. that's home compostable, and it's been created to allow you to make wicketed bags and to run on machinery that would typically run polythene. So that's a product that we're widely offering. New material that's been developed is 312, TIPA 312. That's an OPP type material. So that's a clever material, and it's asymmetric. So heat resistance on the inside, lower temperature sealant on the inside. And that allows it to run on flow wrap lines, which gives the people that be paying, like I say, croissant or other baked goods like that, the option to switch to compostables. We can also take the 302 layer and combine it with cellulose. The cellulose brings in additional barrier. So from that, we get gas and moisture barrier. And for that reason, that then allows us to go into the longer life products. So we typically use that for things like cereal bars, where you want, the product sitting, it will sit on shelf for longer than, say, a loaf of bread. And that's working really well in that sector. So they're good solutions to meet those requirements. And then in addition to that, you will see paper. So paper is a material that's obviously used in the bake sector. It normally has an additional layer to it. So we can add 302, but some people will add PLA or cellulose to that. So that's sort of a broad range, if you like, of the materials that we see from the compostable sector used in bakery.
You touched upon storage, distribution, and shelf life there, which are obviously critical factors in the baked goods sector. Could you give a few more details around how compostable packaging performs in these areas, and also explain what advancements have been made to ensure that the packaging can protect the product without compromising its compostability?
Okay, so storage and distribution. So the materials have been designed to perform in the real world, and that's not just TIPA, obviously, that's across the sector. So we've had to ensure that they are durable and strong enough to survive the packing process and post-packing, obviously handling and distribution right through to the home. So that's certainly, a key element that we've factored into the materials as the sector, and that's largely proven to work well. I think the big challenge, if you like, still is barrier properties in certain areas. Certain things like a sliced white loaf goes stale very quickly, and it needs very high barrier to water vapor. So that's the challenge that we're still working on. It's easy to get high barrier, but you've then got to get that high barrier to work sort of in a wicketed bag environment, which is very challenging. It's sort of a polythene type material normally. So for TIPA, that's certainly an area where we're investing time and effort into boost the water vapor barrier for that type of product.
And drawing from your experiences with both existing and also potential customers, what trends are you seeing globally in the adoption of compostable packaging solutions within the baked goods industry? And would you say there are any regions or markets that are particularly leading the way?
Okay, so we're seeing global interest. So that it's all around the world where we're starting to see this interest. So that's exciting from our point of view. I think the trends, the typical customers that are looking at compostables today, if we sort of go back to plastic as a problem, if you like, in terms of its waste management, recycling currently isn't really fixing the problem of managing plastic waste. Globally, the current recycling rates are very low, certainly less than 10%, probably as low as 4 or 5% in many regions. And I think certain brands are frustrated with that, and they're looking for alternative solutions. So what we're finding is that, around the world, there are companies, whether that be a brand, a retailer, and also in hospitality, where they're looking for an alternative. And that's typically the trend we're seeing is that type of company. They're very much pioneers in the industry. They're sort of leading the way, and they're looking to really make a statement with their material choice and say, look, we've looked at what's happening, and we've decided to do something different. The trend that they're picking up on is often bio-based. Bio-based is important. A lot of plastic is obviously fossil-based. So the transition to bio-based is important to these customers. And this feeling and this belief that the solution they've chosen has a different end of life in composting. And I think that's for me, it was a reason I joined TIPA. It's obviously a really important reason why people choose to go to compostables. And I think there is a greater awareness coming on the composting process, which is obviously the end of our life. It's organic recycling at the end of the day. So these materials that are used, once they've been used, can be put into the composting process. And compost is a very valuable resource. It's sort of unknown. It sort of quietly goes on in the background. The farmers use thousands of tons of this every year to replace lost topsoil. So as we obviously grow crops, wheat, etc., the land needs to be managed, and compost is very much part of that. So this type of compostable packaging going through the industrial composting route is certainly feeding into that.
And do you think that there is more that could be done in order to encourage more bakery manufacturers to embark on this transition to compostable packaging solutions?
I think we talk to brands around the world all the time and educate them in terms of what's possible. I think people are becoming, we're certainly seeing people becoming more critical of the progress being made in recycling. It's trying hard. That's the reality. My background was conventional plastics, so I understand they're working hard. However, I think there's some frustrations in that. And I think as brands sort of, they don't want to put products in the market and then not feel that they've made the right choice and it's actually being processed in the right way at the end of life. So that end of life is crucial. So I think as brands become more aware of that, and just by saying something is recyclable and then it not being recycled, that doesn't sit well with a lot of people. So I think that awareness of the waste streams that you're feeding into and the reality of what's happening is important. And I think people will then start to make more informed choices and make alternatives. I think we have
And thinking about moving forwards then and the future outlook, what innovations or developments in compostable packaging do you think we can expect to see over the coming years?
And I think barrier is always going to be part of it, and functionality. So, at TEPA, in the time I've been there, the materials have evolved considerably. So we'll continue to see innovation within the bio-based and the compostable sector. I think there's new materials coming. It's a very thriving sector with new biosources being sourced all the time. So that's exciting. And I think as we're learning to work with these materials, and there's a lot of partnerships within our sectors. So we largely rely on working with other companies to add extra functionality. And that's a really healthy environment to be in. You're collaborating with other companies. And I think we'll continue to push the barrier properties. I think we'll continue to push functionality. We definitely see new materials coming into the market, and I think that'll allow the bakery sector to choose compostables more easily, because it'll allow them to pack a broader range of products, and obviously trying to match those current production speeds and efficiencies that they can clearly obviously currently enjoy. I think the other thing that's really important for our sector is certification. I didn't mention that earlier, but compost certification is pretty crucial, really. So everybody that's really in our sector should be selling certified compostable solutions. The composting facilities, whether that's home or industrial, really need to know that material has been tested and approved within the right certification bodies globally. And there's Australian standards, European and US standards that we adhere to. And by knowing that you've passed those standards and your customers can print that onto the finished packaging, then that really helps sort of reinforce to the composter that it's okay to compost it and it's not going to create a problem. And I think it brings credibility to the industry as well as we go forward.
And to those watching who might be considering transitioning to compostable packaging, what advice would you offer to them in terms of choosing the right materials and processes to ensure both product integrity and also environmental responsibility?
Yeah, okay. So I think it's a complicated area, and I think working with the right partner is crucial. I think companies that have a variety of solutions, for me, are a better option, and clearly TEPA has that. So when you've got different solutions, you're not trying to force somebody in one direction. You can be much more considered about what you're offering. I think having a broad understanding of the requirements, so barrier properties, the functionality, the on-pack performance is really important. If you're a big bakery, you're going to know exactly what you need, in terms of the criteria you're matching. I think it's harder for the smaller companies. I think that's perhaps when they lean more on their suppliers. So I think finding the right partner to take you on the journey is crucial. I think then going through robust trials we're very much a fan of testing and proving that something works, and make sure that it does what we say it will, and we support customers throughout that whole process. And we also work with the converting industry globally as well. So our products are available through a variety of converters globally, and they equally will provide that sort of on-site support to ensure that the customer gets, hopefully the right result and the right shelf life and the right performance. So I think they're all really important in terms of going forward. I think if you're going to invest in compostables and offer that as a solution, the next thing really to do is to tell people you're doing it. Communicate it on the packaging and make it really clear that this material is different. We've done a lot of work in the UK on the Compostable Coalition, looking at on-pack messaging, on-pack labelling. So I think, again, the good suppliers can certainly help with that messaging to make sure that you communicate it well to the customers. Getting the certification marks on there as well, having that proof that this is actually correct and is certified and will work. And I think education as well. We've worked with a number of brands because this is such a new sector. Some companies put QR code or some means of going to a web page, and we help those brands create the story around the choice they've made on compostables, how to dispose of it after use, and why we firmly believe it's a great solution for the future. So there's a lot of work to do. But, with the right company, we can help people through that process and ensure they get the very best from it.
Well, thank you very much, Gary. It is a really interesting topic, especially given the growing demand for sustainable solutions. So it's exciting. It will be exciting to see how this market does develop in the baked goods industry. Is there anything else that you'd like to add on the topic before we finish the session today?
All I would add is, if anybody is interested in compostables for their products, then please reach out to TIPA. We've got a broad network globally that can help many companies on that journey, many solutions as well, and a lot of expertise to offer. So please reach out, and we're very happy to help.
And just to add to that point, Gary, that if you do wish to reach out to Gary or the team, you can do so through the Bakery Live platform. I'm sure if you have any questions, Gary or one of the team will be happy to answer those for you. Gary, thank you very much for joining us at Bakery Live.
Thank you very much as well.